left-wing intellectuals believed always that they owned the vocabulary of freedom of speech and the vocabulary of freedom and tolerance, and that it was the enemy or the opposite side that could be described as bigoted or narrow-minded or exclusionary. So that when the tables are turned, when the key words in the old Enlightenment liberal lexicon are taken over by, let's say, the right wing and given slightly new definitions, left intellectuals don't know what to do. They're entirely discombobulated. They don't realize that they are no longer the same words, the words that they used to march by. And the right wing seems to be infinitely better at taking over the vocabulary of the opponent and using it against the opponent, in this case using it against the left.
There is a deep moment of truth in it, namely the central event for me in the political process is how what was up to 2-3 decades ago one of the privileged domains of the leftist activity, mass mobilization of civil society for the struggle against racism, women's rights, and so on, is now more and more integrated into the right-wing populist rebellions, let's call them. And this is something that should worry us. This is part of a process where the left limited itself more and more to these cultural topics, gay rights, women's rights, even ecology and so on, leaving all this popular appeal, even the class appeal, to the right-wingers. The danger I see for democracy in all this is what? I think there is another big shift going on. I think that till now, with all variations of course, the basic formula of our politics was two big populist parties. Populist not in the sense of populism, but in the sense of popular, rather, aiming at the entire electoral body. Center-right and center-left party. Let's say Christian conservative and liberal social democratic. This was the basic opposition. Now I think social democracy is disappearing, and then we are approaching a new dualism, where on the one hand we have a centrist, it can be ex-social democrat, ex-conservative, it depends on strategic conditions like who will occupy this central place. A central, let's call it technocratic, liberal, capitalist party, which is usually more open towards minorities and so on, and then the right-wing nationalist populist reaction to it. And this is dangerous. Why? Because you know that wonderful title of the book of Freud, Unbehagen in der Kultur, discontent, uneasiness in culture. Today we obviously live in an era of Unbehagen, discontent in liberalism. The problem is who will voice, who will articulate this discontent. Unfortunately, the only channel which functions for more radical forms of discontent is the right-wing populism.
Proclamo eletto all'unanimità Presidente del Popolo della Libertà l'onorevole Silvio Berlusconi.
Non ci sono pianisti, ragazzi!
I think Berlusconi is one of the options for our future. Namely, as I said, the only remaining tension seems to be a neutral technocratic liberal capitalist party and nationalist populism. Berlusconi made even a step further and combined the two. He's at the same time corrupted technocrat and a populist. But what makes him we have in Asia capitalism with democracy with Asian values, we have it here with Italian values. What does this mean? The first thing I want to emphasize about Berlusconi is his, not only what everybody knows, that politics is rendered more and more an empty spectacle, but there is another crucial dimension in this depoliticization of politics, where it, as if political debate proper is disappearing, what remains is spectacle and expert or corrupted, whatever, concrete economic measures. On the one hand, this systematic dismantling or self-destruction of the minimal dignity of state authority. I mean, Berlusconi, everybody knows, is a living obscenity. I don't think this is just a joke. It's something very strange going on where it's as if the state or political power is discovering that it can function in a totally cynical way, making a joke of itself and so on and so on. But this is one side which shouldn't blind us for the other side of Berlusconi. Are we even aware that for over a year now, from July 2008, Italy is formally in an emergency state? In all Italy, emergency state was proclaimed a year and a half ago. Why? Because this measure renders it possible for the government to deploy army within Italy itself and use it. And they did. They started against immigrants, then against mafia in Napoli. Now they want to use it in city parks and so on to prevent rapes, whatever. And the shocking thing is how people accepted this. This is an ominous image of our future. This is, look at Italy if we want to see how our future authoritarianism will look. It's not the old style authoritarianism where all of a sudden you awaken one morning and a voice tells you all the freedoms are suspended and so on. No, all these small individual freedoms are left to us. You can engage in sex, in all perversions, consumerism, you can make fun of everything, life is one big public spectacle and so on. But at the same time, beneath it, it's again a kind of a new, it keeps itself in the background, new authoritarian state. To call it by its name, Groucho Marx authoritarianism. Really, what isn't Berlusconi something like Groucho Marx from duck soup in power? This is our future, I claim. And if I return to that problem of who will voice the discontent at liberalism, again, the problem is that only the right-wing nationalist populists are effectively doing it. And so I'm not so much against liberalism. My message to liberals is, are you aware that you, in the sense not they personally, but your own dynamic of your own system is generating this nationalist, populist, potentially racist reaction, and that the only way to save what is worth saving in liberalism, sense of freedom, solidarity, and so on, all that, liberalism, what is worth saving in it, will be saved only through a revitalized, more radical left. I think the future will be to simplify to the utmost, Berlusconi or new communism.
Thank you very much, Slavoj Zizek.
Thank you.